All right, I want to share some quick thoughts on Isaiah 48 through 50. So, in here, the tone of Isaiah takes a dramatic turn from one of all is lost, you're really rebellious, and things are going to just go terribly for you because you've decided to put you at the center of your world and you've forgotten about God, and it's bad. So, we've gone from that to the Lord is going to be there for you. He's going to get you through this. This is going to be okay. And it's fascinating because in Isaiah, he talks a lot about how there's this pride cycle, and essentially we've gone through this part over here where, sorry if you can't see that very well, I'm going to zoom in on this. So we've gone through this abundance phase. We've started to rebel, put ourselves at the center of our life, and we've started to cover ourselves with these lies. And this self-centeredness leads to lies like I can get out of my issues through my own means, or through drugs and alcohol, or I can I don't need anybody's help. This is a matter of me, and we get into this self-centered mode where we do everything basically because we've been convinced of a lie, and ultimately we get so deep into it that the lies come crushing down on our life, and eventually we reach this rock bottom. And in rock bottom, we start to realize there's only one way up, or one way out, and it is up. And humility is what was needed. That's what was necessary in order for these lies to get exposed. And so Isaiah and the prophecies that he talks about are all about, from 48 essentially on, or really 35 or so on, are about this other side of the cycle, how it works, and how you go from these lies being exposed to wiping it clean, having a desert clean slate that you can start from, and then being completely restored and blessed. So from the sense of this pattern, what happens when you're in this rock bottom state is the way you go up is you start to separate these truths from lies. And Isaiah likens this to a refiner's fire. And a refiner has this molten, well, let's say it's a bunch of metal or ore, and it's so intertwined with pure metal versus impure metal that the only way to separate the purities from the impurities is to melt it. And what happens when you melt it is it creates what's called slag or dross. Although I've heard dross in the scriptures, but never heard dross in real life. I've heard slag a lot in real life, but never heard dross. But at any rate, it's the same thing. And you melt it down, and it starts to separate the pure, which sinks to the bottom because it's heavy, because it has substance, and then the dross or the slag starts to rise to the top because it's light, it's empty, it's fake. And then this is a picture of a slag scraper that's basically taking a giant handful out of this molten pit of metal and pulling out this dross, which is the impurities, and then going to throw it away essentially. And that's what God does. So when we get into these moments, these refining fire experiences take the mix of truth and lies that are so embedded in our life, and heats us up spiritually, puts us through a lot of tribulation and challenges so that we can start to separate the truth from the lies. And it's not a fun process, obviously, but it is very effective, just like it is in the real world with metal. And then he talks about there's no peace under the wicked. They bring their issues upon themselves, but the Lord is going to provide water in the desert flowing out of the rock. And that's this idea of, yes, it's really hard, and you're not sure like what you're going to do. It's almost like you've been in prison for 20 years, Maybe you were wrongfully imprisoned or rightfully imprisoned, whatever it is. But you come out of prison, what are you going to do? You're in a desert. You have nothing there that is available except just a wide expanse. And so what you need is life. You need life, a life-giving force, and that's essentially what the Lord does, is he gives us that life-giving force, or this water, which is his word and his covenant and his truth. And as we abide by that, we start to fill the desert. The Lord starts to fill this desert with plants and growth and life and all of the blessings that are in store for those that make and keep covenants. So later on, he talks about how his mouth is like a sharp sword. A sword is really critical too, in the sense that a sword divides things. A sword takes and cuts, and when you cut, you're making a division. And a sharp sword or a sharp tongue is able to divide truth from error very effectively and extremely precisely as well. Almost like you can take these words and use a scalpel to cut out the falsities in extreme precision. And he talks about being having this group being a light to the Gentiles, and he has engraven us upon the palm of his hand. And this is obviously a reference to Jesus Christ and the crucifixion and his marks of the nail in his hands. And Elder Holland here talks about how he chose to keep those marks because those were a sign of his covenant, essentially, to us. And then he talks more about this process. Shall the prey be taken from the mighty, or lawful captive delivered? That's basically talking about the miracles he's going to perform while you're in the desert. It's going to seem like you've got no good options, you've got no place to go, but the miracles will be there and you will be delivered. And then at the very end of this note that I wanted to share is, where is the bill of your mother's divorcement? In other words, you've talked so long about how I've abandoned you. What the Lord is saying to us is, you might think I've abandoned you, but the truth is you can't produce a receipt of this divorce. There's no proof of it. There's no record of it. It's because it never happened. And he never has divorced us. And that goes for all of us. And that's the amazing part about this, is when we do achieve that, when we have gone through that refiner's fire and the lies have been separated from the truth in our life, and we start to get into the desert, and we see the opportunities ahead of us, but also the daunting challenges, his promises, he'll be there. He's going to provide water, he's going to provide life, and we will have that opportunity to covenant and receive all the blessings that he has in store for us. That's all I wanted to share. Thanks.